Jean-Marc, thank you so much for joining us today and taking the time out of your schedule. How's the ERTC 2019 been so far?
Well, the ERTC, as usual, it's very interesting. We have a lot of discussions, a lot of presentation, which gives an overview of the future and different views about the future. And there are big questions today. And then there is also all the informal contacts that we have during breaks and dinners and lunches, which are very useful.
Fantastic, and it's been successful so far. Have you had a busy day?
Yes, I mean, well, today I had first my presentation in the session. So basically, I do believe people were interested. I had a lot of questions afterwards during the break and just after the presentations as well. And then there was also, I really appreciate one or two other presentations, which gives inspiration for future works.
Fantastic. Well, we'll come back to your presentation in just a moment. But first I want to ask you, you were recently appointed Science Director at Concawe. Can you tell us, how are you enjoying your new role?
Well, it's really very, very interesting because basically I have had in my career different positions from very operational ones. I was once refinery manager. I was responsible for the industry for big areas and a number of plants. And then I also, at different times, I was Vice President for Research and Development. And I really like the alternance between very operational, which is very day-to-day responsibilities, complex processes and people, and then sometimes taking a little bit of that and having a broader view and longer view ahead to see what are the challenges that will come to ahead. And then when I go back to operational work, it is a lot of value for me. I also like science personally. I love technology. And so to be able to assess the new technologies, the new developments is something that personally interests me a lot. And then as of today, I think that for Europe, we are really with a lot of challenges. And so to be at this moment in Concawe, when we are really looking for our industries, what are the different pathways, what are the opportunities, what are the challenges to come, it is really very interesting.
And when you're looking at those type of challenges, you need to have a wide-angle view of the situation from both sides of it.
Yes, exactly. I mean, and basically what Concawe is doing is a number of challenges. It can be the impact on health, it can be the impact on the environment, not only global warming, but all the emissions, the modelization of emissions within cities to guarantee, to identify what is really the responsibility of our products, of our industry into the urban air quality. And so that to be sometimes able to take the good and to propose the good actions which really will impact the situation and not to have issues which basically will not change anything, whatever we do.
Now, talking on that, the Green Deal, which was promoted by the newly elected European Commission, has obviously raised some interesting questions for the energy industry in general. So what do you think it will mean for refineries?
Well, this is basically, it comes from the COP21. I mean, basically the engagement was taken by the state at that time and to go to limit the global warming to 2 degrees maximum, and if possible to 1.5 degrees. The previous commission then decided to go further in that direction, and indeed, you're totally right. With the elections of the new European Parliament and the new Commission coming, I mean, the ambitions have indeed increased. We are seeing the new Green Deal, which we have heard about it because it is in the make, basically. But it is very important for us and for our industry. There are a number of challenges. And in Concawe, we have started 2 years ago, or no, even more, 3 years ago, to look into pathways. What are the different pathways that can contribute and how our industry can contribute to this objective of reduction of a big reduction of the greenhouse gas emission up to a net zero emission like it is foreseen now in the Green Deal. What we see is basically that we can do that through different ways. First of all, we have identified and we have studied, and there are reports on our website, how can we defossilize or limit the emissions of or processes of our refineries as an industry. So there we have shown that basically, depending upon the some technology development and depending upon what really we want to do and the cost of it, there can be somewhat up to 60% reduction. We can come up to 60% reduction of our greenhouse gas emission. The second study that we did is then taking into account that basically if we look at the crude processing and the product use, the biggest part of the emission in that full scheme is on the combustion of our products. I mean, basically the crude refining produce only 8% of the emission and 80% is on the use and the combustion of our product in the use. And so we look about what is the expectation of the demand of our products, and then how could we contribute by changing the feedstocks, by going to renewables, by going to advanced biofuels, how can we contribute and what would it come to as an industry on the whole global chain? And what we see is that basically there are technologies which currently are not available, unfortunately, but where we would need a lot of effort of our research and development, but we are seeing the first pilot or small scale plans. And basically with those e-fuels, technology, advanced biofuels, also coming from waste, that we could basically limit very much up to a level of 90% or emissions, and even getting negative emission if we were to use carbon storage or carbon capture and utilization out of those renewable processes which do emit renewable CO2, but if we capture that, then it becomes a net negative emission. So there is plenty of opportunities. We are not saying that that will happen. This is not our role. We are looking at for an average refinery. Now, it may happen if there's good legislative development. This is how our industry could contribute. We don't go against electrification. It is supplementary to electrification, and especially for products and uses where electrification is probably not an answer, like aviation, marine, petrochemical feedstocks, probably some heavy-duty transport also, long haul. Everybody agrees that it will be very difficult to go on electrification, and so we could contribute to the objective of Europe by doing that. Now, what is needed for that? A lot of things. There's a question of price, of course, there's a question of technology development, there's a question of supply chain, and so a lot of issues, but I do believe that if we are putting enough resources in research and development, some of those pathways could really contribute to the final goal.
And let's talk about the ERTC and how events like this getting together of the industry, will aid those refiners in those challenges ahead.
Well, first, I do believe that a number of refiners need to be conscious about what does it mean. And I had very interesting discussion first about do we believe that Europe will be serious with that or not? Of course, there is a question mark. I mean, how will Europe enforce? I do believe personally that Europe is serious with that it is a societal challenge and that there will be one or the other enforcement. The risk of not doing anything is to be completely out. And so they have no future at all. Otherwise, there are opportunities that some refiners in Europe could take. So I do believe that the interest of that and what I saw in the discussion is first to be conscious. And how the probability I cannot discuss, but I saw that people who were really questioned by that. I saw other people who were more into that develop in some technology providers really being interested about saying, well, we very rarely mix both the demand. There's a lot of presentation on the demand. There are some presentation about technologies, but up to now there are little presentation or studies mixing both evolution of demand and new technologies or renewable technologies. And to mix the both, give them idea, and we were discussing into the break some of those ideas. And then for the refiners, it can give them an idea about what are the risks of the future and how to develop and to go further into studies about their precise refinery situation.
Well, it sounds like there's been a lot of really productive talk at this ERTC.
Well, I hope so.
Fantastic. Is there anything else that you'd like to add?
No, I think, well, basically that, of course, it's a major challenge. It's a very complex issue, and we are not finished within the Concawe. We are still busy identifying pathway, going into more precise estimate of what is the potential of each of these new technologies and pathway, that there are multiple challenges if we want to be ready for that, because it's not only about investment, it's about technology development, because those technology, most of them are either in low TRLs or in pilot stage or in very small commercial unit, but too small to be really at scale today. But there is also a challenge about new supply patterns, because if we are speaking of biomass, biomass is not very energy intensive compared to fuel. So to make 1 ton of fuel, you need 8 tons of woody biomass, for example. So basically, when you're speaking about the volumes that we need, even with the reduction of demand, there is a massive request of both growing the biomass and improving the yields and the land use and being very thorough about how not to have problems with land use displacement, and then also to make it such that the supply chains are put in place so at the same time as there is technology development. So the challenges are multiple, and we will see really which of those pathways will develop, and there we are further investigating that to have more precise view and to give a more precise information to our members and to the public.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of the ERTC. It's been great having you with us.
Thank you very much, Sylvie. Goodbye.